What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the H Panel, the show where I bring on guests from all different backgrounds to talk all the things mental health. I'm your host, Harry Potvin, and today I am joined by Karyn Inder. Karyn is a model, mental health coach, public speaker, and host of the Model Tongue podcast. Her advocacy work aims to tackle stigmas, change perceptions, and empower those who are living with mental illness. Karyn was so fun to have on this show, and I want to thank her again for coming on and having this discussion with me. Also, if you're listening to this the day that it is released, happy Valentine's Day. If you do not have a Valentine, that is okay. You're in the right spot. I will be your Valentine, and I will sit here and endure all those cheesy pickup lines and whatever other cheeseball quotes or sayings that you've got in the box. My DMs are always open for it. Also, before we get started here, I've got two quotes that you guys submitted to start this episode off. So the first one here is, "Healthy is a body that looks different on everybody." I love that quote so much because it's so true. And this other one is super simple and straight to the point. Live in the moment. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Please, before you press play, like, comment, share, subscribe, give 5 stars if you're listening on podcast platforms, and share with someone who might need to hear this episode. This is a great one, and I really can't wait for you guys to listen. I'll talk to you all soon. Peace. I'm Harry Potvin, and this is the H Panel. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
How are you, Karyn?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, I worked out yesterday for the first time in
Oh,
maybe a
nice.
month. So I can't feel my legs.
It felt good though.
Yeah, it's a good kind of pain. I
Yeah.
missed it.
Listen, have you ever tried, because I saw you had a guest on, have you ever tried hypnotic therapy?
I'm about to.
Oh, me too.
Are you?
Yeah.
Who do you have?
I have a Reiki practitioner, Lisa, and she also does hypnosis. So
Mhm. Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to see how it works through the screen.
I know,
I'd love to be in person.
I know, because like I'm kind of scared. Like maybe it's just all stigma with hypnosis, but like
Yeah, well, yeah, I've had a couple on my show, but they were saying
yeah.
like it's not that scary
I'm
because
gonna listen to your episodes before I do it.
yeah, you better. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I will.
But
I'll
but
put all your episodes on loop so that you get those listens.
we need them, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, but like they said that there's this stigma around it because of roadside shows.
Yeah.
And like in those roadside shows, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna make you bark like a dog, and you
Yeah.
know, do whatever we want you to do." But they said that it, it's impossible to mind control just because your subconscious is so defensive. And the reason they
Oh,
can,
interesting.
yeah, and the reason they can when you go on stage is because you're going on stage. You're letting them do it. It's not like they're taking control of you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that kind of, I was like, okay,
What drew you to it? Like, what are you hoping to get from it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I've heard I've heard a lot of things. They can use it for like to calm your mind. They can use it to help you lose weight, to like get out of bad habits. So I really don't know what I'm looking for. Um, I got to figure that out before I go in, I guess. What are you looking
Yeah.
for?
I have a consultation on Wednesday. Um, I I have, um, health anxiety.
Hmm.
Um, and so with that goes like phobias or irrational fears that make no sense. Like if I eat beer battered fish and chips, I think I'm gonna get drunk and then I panic and I have a meltdown.
Mm,
So super like
interesting.
yeah, yes. Or like, I can't step on the floor because I'm gonna get sick. Or I can't eat certain foods because it's gonna make me sick. Like these kinds of very, very irrational fears.
Hmm.
And so I just want to kind of regain. I want to do hypnotic therapy to see if I can uh, progress that part of my anxiety. I guess just have more control over it. I have been doing Reiki, and I've had a lot of success. I don't know if you've
What's
ever
what's Reiki?
Reiki. Reiki is like a super old Japanese form of therapy where you this is me explaining it in like, what I am aware of, that
Right.
not the
Yeah.
correct terms or anything, but it's like the transfer of energy in your body. And
Oh, okay.
so I have PTSD, and I started going specifically for PTSD because I attack myself in my sleep, and I target my face. And so I've gone to like my optometrist so many times with scratches on my eyeball, and she's worried that I'm going to do permanent damage. So I was like, okay, I have to really do something with like to try and fix this. So I went to Reiki, and yeah, it's just kind of like the transfer of energy, and fixing blockages with your chakras, um, doing like inner child work, some like past life regression
Mm.
and stuff like that. I've been doing it for probably 4 months, and prior to that, I used to sleep with socks on my hands so that I wouldn't scratch myself. But I haven't worn socks on my hands in like 2 months.
Oh,
So
wow.
I go to bed now feeling completely confident that I'm not gonna do it. So it's been really, really nice.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Highly
Thank you.
recommend.
I've never heard of that.
Mhm.
Interesting. So,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, all those things, like, they confuse me, but, like, I'm not like, I don't know. It doesn't my mind is unable to comprehend how it works, I think is the problem.
Yeah. Um, and it's like one of those. I'm always like, if it works, it works. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and I'll try anything for mental health. Like I've tried so much random shit. Uh, One thing that like I'm really curious about is micro dosing. I think it's mushrooms
Shrooms, yeah, yeah.
to treat like depression, anxiety,
Mhm.
bipolar. Because there's been so many studies saying that like they've had a lot of success doing it.
Yeah, no, I'm interested in all of those, mental health therapies. I
Yeah.
interviewed a couple yesterday from Toronto. They're called the Cuddle Couple, and they do
Hmm.
cuddle therapy.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and so you go into a room, and it's like a husband and a wife. And first of all, their energy, they're so nice. Like you can feel it through the Zoom call. They're just like peaceful and cozy.
Okay, so
Going
if
to
you're saying that, I think then don't be worried about hypnosis over video. If you're picking up on someone's energy over video, you're
Mhm,
clearly quite receptive to it.
that's true. That's
Okay,
true.
sorry,
I've
go
been
on.
yeah. But you go in a room and they try different cuddling poses, and like they see what works for you, and it's like it's not it's like a transitional period between, let's say, someone who's never had touch before or had the wrong kind of touch, like
Hmm.
let's say sexual assault or
Yeah,
um
desensitization.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you just do it, and it's like a transitional period so that you can go out into the real world, know what you want, or like know yourself in terms of what you need from your partner,
Yeah,
what you need from friends. It's really cool, and they were
that's
great people.
beautiful.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. And I thought it was cool because, I've had that where I was in relationships where it was too much for me, and then the next ones would be none at all. And I don't mean touch like sexually. I mean like, the little things like holding hands or high-fiving or just
Yeah.
being present with the person. Sometimes it was too much, and then other relationships it wasn't enough, and I was relating it more to them as opposed to what I wanted. So, man, I want to try that so bad when we get out of this.
Oh yeah, crap, COVID.
Yeah.
That's a really cool, and it's super necessary too. Like a lot of people struggle with physical touch, and it's a great way to either overcome trauma or just desensitize to it so that you can, if it's important to you and it's part of your living a life of high quality, then it's great that they do that for people.
Hmm. Yeah, and especially now, like after this pandemic, we've basically been hardwired to fear touch. 6 feet
Yeah.
apart, don't touch people, don't shake hands. So when we get out there, like what the hell? Like for me, I'm gonna hug every freaking person I see. I don't care. There's gonna be I can't talk. There's gonna be people out there who like they'll be like, oh my god, don't touch me.
Yeah. It's true. Like I think with this pandemic, a lot of fears of a lot of people became a reality.
Hmm.
And to some degree I am that, like again with my health anxiety. Um, so this has just been awful because every time I leave the house, then I spiral out of control and think that I have COVID. And because it like my health anxiety is so strong that I I will like make symptoms real. Like I manifest it in myself.
Mm.
So like I'll start coughing and you know, my partner will be like, "You're making that cough up." I'm like, "I know," but it's like it's just the inner torment. That's how destructive mental illness can be sometimes, is that it's just tormenting you, torturing you every single day. And I think, because when I think about we've seen how okay, trigger warning at the beginning of this episode talking
Mhm.
about COVID and germs because I don't want to trigger anybody. But um, you just think about how we've seen it, how kind of quickly this can spread, and then you also see measures you can take to prevent it. So like the 6 feet apart, the masks, and like all that kind of stuff. But then it just makes you realize, like, wow, you go back and you think, like, we went down a rabbit hole one night. Like we used to go to Raptors games, and like we would all take TTC and then meet and then share popcorn and like
Mhm.
drinks and like no
Yep.
one was sanitizing or um birthday cakes, like you blow on a birthday cake.
I just saw a video of that a guy was blowing out a birthday cake. I was like, "Look at all the spit!" Like,
Yeah, yeah, like you're just blowing all over it and then you
Mhm.
eat it. Like
Yeah. Oh
it's
yeah,
just
yeah. You muck that thing.
yeah, so just stuff like that, it's kind of wild to think. And moving forward, it's going to be a lot of rewiring
Hmm.
to not just live in that state of fear.
Yeah, it was definitely a wake up call. I think
Yeah,
for some things, like that birthday cake. I can't believe like none of us ever thought of that before. Like when like you have a little cousin over, they're like 6 and they're blowing out their birthday and it's lit
I
like you can
know.
see it flying like
But
and you're just like,
it's true. Think about it. Think about how much
yeah.
cake you've eaten that's been blown off.
I've seen the spit fly on it and my only thought is I'm gonna eat the fuck out of that cake.
Yeah,
That's the only
exactly.
thought I've got.
It's
Yeah.
so it's so weird.
Oh man, Raptors game. I'm so glad I went to a Raptors game before this.
Same.
Only one. I went my very first one was Christmas Day.
Nice.
Yeah, my dad, he had an extra ticket and he's like, "I can't find anyone to go with." And I was like, "I will literally go with you." And he's like,
Yeah,
"No, no, I need to find someone I like." Like as a joke.
yeah, yeah.
That joke ended up he didn't ask me. I was like, "Oh."
Oh,
And then on Christmas morning, he was like, "Hey, no one else wanted to come. Do you want to?" I was like, "Are you kidding? Of course I do." So I had to drive down from Port Perry to Toronto.
too funny. Totally worth it though.
Oh, yeah.
We I was in Miami when Trump closed the borders.
No.
Yeah, so, like, the very last like, because everyone always has, "Oh, I remember when this all happened," or whatever, and I'm like, "Well, we like, we had gone to Miami, we had planned this trip." I think we left, like, March 11th, and we came back on the 15th, like, right when all of this the world was shutting down,
Oh my
and
god.
it was very it was very just wild how it was panning out because we went to Pearson Airport, it was empty. And
Mhm.
then our flight was canceled because there weren't enough people on it. And so we got bumped to a later flight. And then we got to Miami. Um, in Toronto, we weren't wearing masks yet. But people were like aware, washing their hands and keeping distance. In Miami, it was just regular Miami. Like no one was doing anything.
Sounds about
It
right.
was just regular life. And then that night, we went out for supper, and as East Coast saying dinner, I think is what you guys call it, the evening meal.
Dinner, yeah.
And yeah, supper. And then my friend Clem is a model, and so she was just telling us like, "Yeah, I'm here today. You guys can have my condo. Like, I have to go to France on Thursday and then New York on Friday, so I won't be around much." And we're like, "Okay, like we'll take care of the place. Don't worry about it." And then her phone kept buzzing, and it was her agents being like, "Oh, this like you're not going to France anymore. It's canceled. You're not going to New York anymore. It's canceled." And we were like, "That's so weird that everyone is kinda, like just all everything's being canceled like that. And then we saw like the news that because Trump said he was going to close the borders first, and then Trudeau followed after, and we were like, oh, that's awesome. And then going back home, the juxtaposition, like the airports were rammed, people were panicking, everyone and their dog was trying to get home. we I have never, like, I've flown from Miami to Toronto a couple times now, and I've never been on a plane that big. It was like an Airbus, three seats, three seats, three seats, and then five different um like compartments.
Mhm.
It was massive, and everyone on the plane was sick, like
No.
everybody. And so I'm internally screaming because I'm so scared. Um, we didn't have masks because it wasn't a thing. Like people, it just wasn't a thing yet.
Mhm.
And I just remember, like, I think what was scary to me was there were a lot of sick people, and they were just coughing. And I looked at the two steward, like, flight attendants, and they were side-eyeing each other like they were nervous.
Yeah.
And then they, like, seeing them nervous made me nervous.
Mhm.
And so Nick was just like, put your headphones in, watch a movie, like blast that volume and just like don't listen. That's how bad it was. And then we had this poor girl in between us, um, who was sick. She had a mask, thankfully, but she was so sick. And I was giving her like tissues and sanitizer, and she was on her way to Spain, and she was talking to her family on FaceTime who were all wearing masks. It was just a moment where we were like, wow, like this is a real thing.
Yeah.
Um, we we got home, and of course quarantine immediately for 14 days. But what was funny is that we were like, you just didn't think this was going to happen,
Mm.
right? Like the world would shut down and every plane would be grounded, borders would be closed. And so, what do you do before you go on a vacation? You eat everything in your fridge and make sure you don't have any food left over. So we came home, we had no food. We had nothing,
Oh my.
not a grape, not like milk, like literally anything perishable, not in the house. And then, at this time, this is when internet groceries was becoming a huge thing. And so we are like, okay, like we'll just order online. Because everyone was ordering online, we couldn't get groceries delivered for 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah, that was the wait time.
What'd you do?
We ate through our deep freeze, and it was disgusting. Like I had like scurvy by the end of it. We just ate everything that was frozen. And then our neighbors brought us, I remember, this is super Canadian. Our neighbors rolled us a bag of milk. And so we had that. Um, but it was hilarious, I guess, in a way. And we were fine, thankfully. My gosh.
Wow.
We were careful anyways, but it was still, yeah, it was like, yeah, just the timing.
Yeah,
Just directed to be. And I was so mad because I was like, I knew we shouldn't have went on this trip. Oh my gosh.
that's a perfect example of life comes at you fast.
Oh yeah, it was yeah. It was a wild way to be introduced to it.
Well, it happened, like, so quick because I tell this story a lot. I remember I was talking to a girl at the time, and she would send me, like, news articles about China and, like, Wuhan and how it,
Mhm.
like, obviously this isn't true, but the due date of bad and it caused corona, like, they proved that wrong, but that's what it was at the time. And I was like, "Can you stop sending me this shit? Like, it doesn't matter. It's in China." And then boom, like, right away, like March 13th. Because, like, I made this channel. I think I've told you, I made this channel 2 days before everything shut down. Like,
Oh.
like my second video was a vlog of me going, "I'm gonna take you through a day of school." And then I went to
Oh my god,
school.
that's so funny. Well, at least you have it now. You're
I
like
know.
last.
Yeah, seriously. I was just like, "Oh, actually, class is canceled because of COVID, so I have nothing to give you." And then that's when I stopped vlogging. But yeah, it came quick.
Yeah. Agreed. It was a really weird feeling at the beginning when everything shut down. Like I remember it was just like an eerie feeling. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember Christmas shopping and it was dead. And I'm
And
like,
that was another thing too. Like we had traveled so much, like higher than usual between uh like August and March. Because I think the first case was in September. We know that COVID had been around,
mm,
and people were getting sick like as early as September, October, November. And yeah, we traveled so much. Went to Chicago, New York. We're in so many airports all the time, which is just weird. And but at the same time, it's like I'm glad we did because who knows now
yeah.
when uh when that will happen. I don't know. I guess after the vaccine.
Well, I mean, there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? Like they said,
Hmm.
everyone in Canada anyway should be fully vaccinated by September. Canada, Ontario, I think it's Canada, but yeah,
Like Canada.
yeah. So,
I've seen like other provinces. Yeah, they're just like Newfoundland, where I'm from. Like so many people are getting their vaccine. So
yeah, I have a friend in Newfoundland. She just got it.
yeah,
Hey, man, whatever brings us back to normal, I'll freaking do it. I
yeah. I think
trust
in
our.
Ontario right now they're still doing like medical, like first line responders and stuff.
Yeah, they've got first time responders, and then they've also got a retirement home. I think those are
Hmm.
the top two that they're going at first, and then they'll just trickle down. But yeah, man, there's light at the end of the tunnel, which is nice. Um, Hopefully, we can get back to some sort of normalcy after whatever the fuck this last year and a bit was.
Yeah.
It's almost been a full year. Jesus. Anyway,
Oh yeah.
um, on that happy note, we're done the podcast. Everyone, have
Yeah.
fun going home and feeling
Have
really
a
sad.
peachy day.
Yeah, this is it. No, kind of moving on here. First of all, thank you for having me on. That's so embarrassing. I thank
Oh,
you.
I did have you on. You're correct.
Oh yeah, that's right, dude. My brain is fried. Thank you for coming on. I haven't had enough coffee. I
But
usually have like.
also, thank you and you're welcome to all of that.
Yeah, no, it
Um,
was fun when I came on, and hopefully this is fun too.
yeah.
If I can get my brain in the right spot. Um.
You just got more for your blooper reel. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, jeez, that thing is full to the brim. Um. So I wanted to first start off. Well, we've already started off, but I wanted to first get to you in general. So I wanted to
Okay.
go all the way back.
Let's
Um,
do it.
when did you first realize that you were struggling with mental health, and what pushed you to get the help you needed?
I was 7 or 8 years old, which is like
Really
pretty
young.
shocking,
Yeah.
really young. Um, it's a thing that when you're diagnosed that young, in a lot of ways, your childhood is like stolen from you. 100% stand by that, because you don't get to do normal childhood kid things because you're so focused on survival, and that's a young age to be focused on survival. So I started um, hallucinating, a lot of paranoid thoughts. I always thought I was being poisoned. I never thought that I would live past 12. Um, and I started cutting around 9 or 10, and then I wouldn't stop till I was 23. So I had like a good 10, yeah, 13 years of that in my life.
Can't even question
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's a long time. And just really begging for help. I had a lot of teachers get involved. I lost a lot of friends, because I quote scared them. And I always thought it was funny because I'm like, I'm scaring me too, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think I'm happy over here? Like,
I'm there with you, man.
yeah. And of course, the whole time I didn't know what was going on. I spent most of my like adolescence just wanting to die because it was just not a way to live. And then things just got so bad, I guess, like the the swings and the hallucinations and the behavior that my mom brought me to a psychiatrist at 14. He diagnosed me as bipolar type 2 and borderline personality disorder. And he prescribed medications. And for the first time, I was like, oh, like I was so happy. I know people have like a conflict with getting a diagnosis, but for me, I was so happy because to me, I was like, okay, what I feel has a name. It's a
Mm.
thing. It's identifiable, which means that we could fix it. So it was like the first time I had hope in a long time. And then I took them like because I was a minor, the medications were administered to me by my mother. And I think I took them for 3 days, and then she just told me that I wasn't gonna take them anymore and that, she didn't believe the diagnosis, and she wanted a second opinion, but she never got me the second opinion, and so I just went unmedicated, um, until I was 23. So, that was at 14. When I went to university, I felt I had a little bit more control in my life because I had moved out away and I was living on my own, and I had access to campus resources, which was key. So as soon as I got to university, I just sought all of them out, like one-on-one therapy, group therapy, anything I could find, and it did help. But something like bipolar is sometimes you need a little more help than, than just therapy. And so then I crashed and burned my second last year of university, ended up in hospital for the first time. Um, and I just felt like I've always had to fight for my mental health, like fight for my right or that I deserve to like get treatment because for whatever reason my parents just weren't like in sync, I guess, or I've had many opportunities and they were taken away from me. So after this hospitalization, I got discharged and I think I started taking anxiety medication around this time. But then I crash and burned again, which is what happens. Like
Yeah.
you kind of have like so many false starts. Um, and lots of kind of altercations with my parents about it. They just weren't getting it or supportive or understanding. It was more so just you have to like snap out of it. Like,
Mhm.
you can't just not go to work because you don't feel like it or school or fill in the blank. Um, but of course, it was more than that. And then I thankfully ended up in long term care at this facility called Homewood in Guelph, where, by the way, if that was my second opinion, my diagnosis of bipolar was confirmed.
Mhm.
So I got my confirmation second opinion, you know, 9 years later. Um, Completely unnecessary pain. And then borderline personality disorder, but also, in addition, I was diagnosed with PTSD um, and like legit generalized anxiety.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my mental health journey in post-it notes timeline.
It's a great example of recovery is not linear.
No.
You have so many highs and lows. I wanted to what's the difference between bipolar type 1 and 2?
Yeah. Um, it's the like magnitude or degree of highs and lows. So like mania and depression.
Mhm.
Um, that's like basically it. It's just bipolar one episodes can be a little bit more okay, no, not like way more intense.
Oh, okay.
And bipolar type two, like I was still rapid cycling. So when you have bipolar, like how you switch between the two phases matters.
Mhm.
And so I was considered rapid cycling. So I could be deliriously happy, but then crying within like 10 seconds over and over and over again. So it's very exhausting. And some people don't have that. Some people it's more like weeks into weeks into weeks. But for me, it was very quick.
Yeah. Man. So your mind is like through a roller coaster the entire time.
Yeah, there's lots of things that go with bipolar, like issues with spending, reckless behavior, which I was super reckless. I did so many dangerous things. Like you just don't think about it. You don't think about consequences. Hallucinations is another big one. I had a lot of visual hallucinations. Um, and but also like when you have multiple diagnosis, it's almost kind of hard to differentiate like who's the bad guy.
Hmm.
But because I had BPD also, there's just the added fear of abandonment, and just difficulty regulating emotions. And it's it's also really tough to get diagnosed at that age because when you're in your teens, you tend to be like volatile anyways. There's so many hormones, and it's such a difficult time in your life. Like you're trying to figure yourself out, you're trying to figure the world out, who you are. Um, and so I think that's another reason why a lot of people go in their teens and don't get diagnosed, because it's kind of sometimes disguised as just those teenage hormones.
It's just a phase.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, I had a question.
I know there's a
I
lot
had
to
it.
unpack here.
No, I do this every time, and if people listen to every episode, they're like, "Just write it down already."
Oh, we talked about it last time. You're like, I should get a pen and a piece of paper. I'm like, yeah, you should.
I should. I keep forgetting shit. So why does bipolar and like borderline personality disorder, why do they not get talked about as frequently as other
Yeah.
mental health struggles?
Oh my god, I was losing my shit the other day because, and it's true. This is a thing where, okay, moving forward this conversation, we're not discrediting any mental health. You know what I mean?
No, right.
We're talking about it in terms of how it's perceived by society, and these are well known. So it's kind of an annoying thing and well known that depression and anxiety are considered like cute. Even eating disorders, like they fall into the category of being like cute, and people will talk about them because they're not, I guess, I don't know
They've been
like the roots.
romanticized.
Yeah, romanticized maybe, and but other things like when you get into bipolar or borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia,
Mhm.
stuff like that, it's like crosses some sort of invisible line. And I see this all the time because OCD too, I think would be like another one that would be paired with anxiety and depression, because those are the ones those are the ones too where people who haven't been diagnosed with them will say that we always hear like, "Oh, I'm so anxious," or like, "I'm gonna clean my desk because I'm OCD," and you're
Or
like,
like, "Oh, that test made me so depressed."
yeah, like they're very common. Sometimes I hear the bipolar one, people will be like, "Oh, the weather's so bipolar," or but you don't really hear it like people talk about it themselves. And for some reason, I feel there's a point where mental illness is cute and then it veers on like scary and gross and ew. And I think it's based on fear.
Mhm.
Like fear kind of runs everything, and uh, people are scared. Like bipolar, what does that mean? It sounds scary. Or even I don't like the words or like the title, I guess, of borderline personality disorder. And I've actually talked about it with some other friends who have BBPD, and because it just sounds like it has a sound to it. I don't know, because it really doesn't have anything to do with your personality. It's kind of misleading.
Yeah.
It has to do with how you regulate emotions. So um, it's just again lack of awareness, lack of education, stigma, fear, judgment, all this kinds of thing. But people, especially if I go to speaking events or something, they'll be like, "Okay, so we're going to talk about anxiety and depression," and I'm like, "There are other things,"
Yeah.
but people just aren't ready to have that conversation.
Mhm.
So
I feel like when you talk about mental illness, a lot of people just think of depression and anxiety, and, like, obviously, those are real things, like,
yeah, the very
but
real things, and they're very painful. And like I suffer from anxiety.
yeah, they freaking
Um,
suck, dude.
I have depression too, but it's just it's more fun because I have an up.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a it's definitely no joke and no laughing matter at all. We're not saying that. I'm just saying for some reason how it's perceived, it's different, and I don't know. I have to. It's frustrating. I see it all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember because I had a couple of not friends, but, like, girls at my high school who got diagnosed with schizophrenia, and it was immediately, like, Oh, are you going to get, like, you know, that straight jacket? Like, are you
Yeah.
going to that insane asylum that you see on the movies? Like, I do think movies played a big role
Oh my
in
goodness,
why we're not
yeah.
ready to have that conversation. Like
And
Joker,
Halloween.
Halloween. Oh my god, yeah. Yeah,
Can I tell you something?
let's hear
So
it.
every Halloween I'm always like, please don't like make mental health or mental illness costumes. That is absolute disgusting.
Mhm.
And um one time, so this was when I was in Homewood actually. So I was in Homewood. I was in Homewood from September to November. And it was my first like long-term rehabilitation center. Again, I was there for psychological reasons, but also for addiction. And at the time, um, someone in my family who's not there anymore, but for Halloween, while I was in treatment center, she dressed up as a like mental patient with bandages on her arms with cuts.
So she could read the room very well, is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you're
yeah.
telling me. Yeah, that's cool.
And like while in treatment, I had access to computers in the library. And so I remember I logged in one day on Facebook and I saw them and I was like, but then also I was just it was like being hurt from so many different angles, hurt by that she would do that.
Mhm.
But then also hurt that like it was okay and acceptable by everyone else.
They were like,
Like,
"Woo!"
yeah. So yeah, definitely a read the room situation gone wrong, but it don't do it. It's why? There's so many freaking costumes. You're really gonna be someone at their worst part of, rock bottom of their life.
Yeah, yeah, those are very questionable costumes.
Yeah.
I got this is not related at all, but kind of because of Halloween. I
Yeah.
got in trouble a couple years ago because my girlfriend at the time she was sick, so she didn't like want to go out for Halloween. I was like, yeah, that's completely fine. But we were supposed to be salt and pepper. I know, cringe. And so she wasn't coming out, and I was like, well, I'm not just gonna be pepper. It's so random. So I got the girls on the swim team to do my makeup, and I dressed up as a country girl. I
Nice.
got in so much trouble because people were like, "You can't do that." For whatever reason, they kind of got the message wrong. They thought I was making fun of like people transitioning. I know
No.
because I had makeup on, I had a beard, I had a crop
Yeah.
top, and I was like, "No, I don't know. I thought it was fun." Like as a kid, this whatever. As a kid, I used to dress up as a girl for fun. Like it was. I found it because I was an actor,
Are you
right?
exploring
So
your
I like
sexuality?
yeah, whatever it was. I thought it was fun, and I liked putting on makeup. I got bullied for it, but
Yeah,
whatever. Um,
intention goes with everything, right? Like, what is
yeah,
your intention?
yeah, exactly. Like I didn't go out. I wasn't going into that party to go, "Hey, I'm making fun of transitioning people."
Mhm.
I was going in like, "Hey, look, they did my makeup really well. I feel like a queen." So, but that's not related at all. But back to your point,
Yeah,
yeah,
intention
those
is everything, yeah.
yeah, and those costumes are just gross. But yeah, I definitely agree that like there's like a romanticizing of depression, anxiety, eating disorders, OCD. Like I feel like we throw terms around way too loosely.
Yeah, it's because there's just not enough awareness or understanding. I don't know, it's crazy to me that mental health isn't taught in schools, I don't know. And
That
I go speak at schools, like, but my content is reviewed and approved before I do it, and I can say that I am, like, limited in what I can say.
right. Is that just because of like trigger warnings or
No, just
oh
people aren't ready. I don't know, there's
hmm,
I don't know, and it's like these kids are the ones who need it the most. Like, every time I go do a speaking engagement at school, which is usually grade 6s, after the talk, there's always a handful of students who stick around to talk to me, who tell me that they self-harm.
mm-hmm, yeah,
And so, for me, it's just it can be frustrating as an advocate for for just, my content being I don't know, just what's the word, like, catered to a certain degree or is if I could have it my way, because I talk about everything on my Instagram. I don't hold back. Like,
Right.
I talk about what's uncomfortable, and which sucks when you're in the world of mental health because sometimes it feels like you're just talking to the emptiness, but for the reason being that not everyone is going to comment on that post like, yeah, like I cut myself. This post helped me so much. Like, no
Right.
one's going to say that.
Mhm.
They're going to slip into my DMs or like stop me at a speaking event and be like, hey, I follow you on Instagram. I can't comment on your stuff and I can't like your post because I don't want my family or employer or friends or whatever to see that I do like it, but I just want you to know that like your post helped me and all this kind of stuff. So it's I do it because I know it's helping people, even though I'm not seeing it analytically, like in the
Right.
logistics, which
But
can be like which can be like frustrating.
you feel like you're in a room talking to yourself,
Yeah, exactly.
and then you're, like, going in your own head, you're like, "Woo, yeah, Karen, yeah."
But I get it. Like not everyone is
Of
ready,
course.
right? It
Of
makes
course.
sense. Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. Um, I f I find it a little upsetting that, people have to hide it, because when you hide it and you suppress it, like, this happened to me when, like, I was hiding it, I was suppressing it, I didn't want people to know because people were so judgmental about it, or, like, I had a fear that I would be cut out. That's when it
Yeah.
gets worse. Like, when you leave it to yourself and you don't speak it, you don't go get the help, you're building up a storm bigger in your brain that's just it's just harder to solve, like, once it accumulates to a point where you can't. Like, I had been suppressing it from, like, elementary school to last year of university. There was a lot to unpack. There's still a lot to unpack, but that's because I didn't tell anyone. So I feel like, we have to get to a point where, like, let's get uncomfortable. Like, it's not scary. It's not like you wake up one day and you go, "I want to," or it's not like sorry, it's not like when you're born, they go, "Oh, do you wanna cut yourself? Do you wanna have bipolar? Do you wanna be
Hmm.
depressed?" Like, you don't pick. It's
Yeah.
just something you're born with.
And it can happen at any time. Like that's one thing I found really interesting about bipolar, in case anyone doesn't know, is that uh, bipolar is a genetic thing. Um, Unlike, obviously genetics play a role in a lot of things, but um, something like depression or anxiety, it can happen to anyone.
Mhm.
Without any warning and without any past history.
Yeah.
But bipolar is one of the ones where you have the like genetic makeup for it. So a lot of people will live their whole life with the bipolar genetic gene and never have bipolar. So how it gets triggered is through trauma.
Right.
So that's why you have people, who like at 8 years old, they have bipolar just kicks in their system. Or they're like 35 or they're 57. Like, and all of a sudden they went like, I know so many people who are um in their 50s who just one day, like bam, they just started having all the symptoms of bipolar. Like, why? I went my whole life. How does this happen? So it kind of sits dormant in your body. This is how I try to explain it. And then if you experience trauma, which can be, um, and like for someone, it could be the death of a parent, or it could
Mhm.
be a car crash. Like anything that is trauma to you can trigger it. And so so for me it was just fucking trauma growing up in my childhood, but it can get triggered by something. But it's one of those things, like obviously I don't wish mental health issues, disorders on anybody. But it's also something that I wish that and hope that you don't experience. But these people are usually the people who are like not understanding or empathetic towards people with mental illness,
Yeah.
and I just wish that more people understood that no one chooses it. Like, I wasn't just like I didn't just wake up into consciousness as like 3, 4, 5-year-old kid with all this.
Mhm.
It's just like a reaction, and it's hard. And it's hard to walk through life. And the world isn't designed for people with disabilities, and it's really difficult. but it can happen to anyone at any time. Not to put fear into anyone, but just like trying to get you to understand that, because sometimes people who don't have mental illness look at people who do as like otherly, like beneath
Yeah.
them, like they have mental illness. Ooh, like they're not in control of their thoughts. Like it's so easy. They're so lazy and they just can't get it together. Like this kind of mentality. And I just wish it was different.
Well, and this might be a stretch of a comparison to some people, but I was talking to someone with bipolar and she had also been homeless at one point. And so I
Mhm.
kind of related back to that where like people judge the homeless, they treat the homeless terribly. But a lot of those people, there's not a very thick line in between where you are and where those people are. Like the woman I was talking to, she had like a full government job, she was doing well, and then they just let her go and she couldn't afford anything and then
Yeah.
she was just on the street. Like it can happen like that and it's like the same thing.
No, that yeah, that's like that is a great analogy because yeah, like you're not born like okay, some people are born, into homelessness, but I'm just saying like there's a series of events that happens and it's usually to no fault of anyone, It's just we are in a housing crisis. We are like right now in a pandemic, like lots of people are losing their jobs and it's something that can happen and it just snowballs and there's just lack of compassion. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to get more of that. What what are some of the best tips and tricks that worked for you when you were in your low points of bipolar?
Um, it's funny. Depression is a crazy thing because um you don't know you're in it.
Mhm.
Like I just got out of a 16-month depression.
Right.
And that sounds like a long fucking time and it is. It is a
Yeah.
long time. Um and we know it to be 16 months because yeah, I keep like track of my moods and to a T. And so it's easy for me to like go back and reference. But people also think that mental health is mental only, but I believe like mental health is so physical. Because when I'm depressed, I have crippling like stomach pain, and I'll have aches in my body. And then one day I wake up and like everything's gone. So, and then I also kind of use like the example of, for anyone who wants to disagree with me, is like when you stub your toe or break your leg or something, like are you ecstatic? like are you fucking pleased with yourself?
No.
And usually the answer is no, because like you stub your toe, it hurts. Oh my god, that sucks. And you're like, oh, my day is ruined. Or if you break your leg, you're like, I can't play my sports, I can't go swimming, I can't wear what I want to wear. Like this is so inconvenient. I need help getting around. This sucks. So one might say that your physical health can affect your mental health because when you're hurting all the time, that freaking blows.
Mhm.
So if that can be said, then shouldn't the same also apply that your mental health can affect you physically, like the reverse?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's been proven.
Yeah, like so when like I didn't even realize I was depressed until I came out of it. Until one day, November 17th. Oh, no, that's the day.
To the date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
November 17th, I woke up and I was like, "Wait, like the world looks different." So how did I get there? How did I get stuck in a 16-month depression and then wake up one day with clarity? Um, I meditate. Um, and I know, like, I'm always insecure about saying, I'm always insecure talking about meditation or breathing because so many people are like, that doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
And all I have to say to that is it never used to work for me either. And I always like shit on meditation and breathing because like give me something better than that, right? Like those are shitty examples.
Mhm.
Then I learned that I was breathing wrong and it's a thing.
Mhm.
Like you can actually breathe wrong. And so I saw a breathing therapist, but also RMTs can help with this. And I was taught how to breathe properly. Once I learned that, then breathing works. So just like an FYI for anyone listening who's like breathing doesn't help calm me down, it's probably because you're doing it wrong.
Hmm.
No offense, but just like look into it. Um, and it's the same thing, if you're doing an exercise but you're not seeing results, it's probably because you're doing the exercise wrong. There's not like nothing wrong with it. You're just doing it wrong. The other thing, meditation. So I always hated meditation. Again, that I realized I was meditating wrong. Meditation is hard though. It's really hard to learn and practice. It's something you have to practice and work at in order to truly get it.
Hmm.
Um, my first baby step to learning how to meditate correctly was I would just play a meditation album like on Spotify and then do nothing. Just let the album play. Like and
Like
that
go,
was my baby step.
like go about your day.
I sit in the shower, sit in the bath
Hmm.
and just let it play and not hold myself to any kind of like criteria or pressure to do anything with my mind or thoughts. Just play it and sit and see what happened. And that to me, it broke like a lot of barriers and blockages with being able to meditate. Um, Another thing I do is body scans. So I'll lay in bed on my back, and then I just start at my toes and envision energy hitting different parts of my body. So toes, knees, hips, fingertips, elbows, shoulders, head. And then I just do this. I try and do it every morning. It's a great way to wake up with yourself and become aware. So that's called body scans. I also do. It's like called muscle flexes, where you just like strain a muscle, strain a muscle, strain a muscle, and then relax.
Okay.
And you can do it with your legs too. So like you just bring your foot up and stretch your calf, and you hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, relax. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, relax. So I find that very therapeutic. So those are what I do on my own. I also, so this is these two people is who I attribute um, my depression ending to the most. I have an RMT and a Reiki practitioner who are both trauma informed. And my RMT specifically treats my vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is a nerve in your neck that is connected to the hippocampus and the amygdala. And when you suffer from anxiety or depression or trauma, PTSD, those parts of your brains, along with the frontal cortex, kind of glitch and stop working,
Hmm.
or they don't work as well. And then this just further adds to your anxiety because when your brain isn't firing back and forth, and there's lots of blockages, then it's causing anxiety. So she will go in there and she treats my vagus nerve and tries to get those parts of the brains communicating more and firing off and talking to each other. And I've been doing that. I was doing that for uh, probably 2 to 3 months before I came out of my depression on the 17th. And then the other one is my Reiki practitioner. It was during her session where I laid down on her table depressed, and then I got up with so much energy that I thought I was manic. Uh, and, and so it was, I think, her work as well that was helping me. Um, I feel like I'm talking a lot about like self-soothing and coping strategies, but it's all important. Like everyone should know about it.
Yeah.
My last one is eye tracking. So my RMT also helps me with this. It's just improving the movement of your eye. A lot of us, again, through trauma or just like the way from looking at a screen or whatever the circumstances, our eyes um, don't move smoothly. Sometimes they're like like
Mm.
chopped. And then you could see it if you have like this can happen if you have a slightly eye or a tired eye. But what that does, how it was explained to me, is that when you're looking at things, your eye is sending pictures of what you're seeing to your brain. And if your eye isn't tracking properly, it's sending chopped up images to your brain. And then that's causing stress on your brain because it's trying to piece together what you're seeing, which can cause anxiety. So I have been working with my RMT on eye tracking movements, which is calming and therapeutic in itself. But we're trying to make my eyes move more smoothly so that it processes images better.
Mm,
So
yeah.
those are what I do. It's a lifestyle. It's
It's a job. It
it's
literally
a
is.
full-time, yeah. It's a full-time job for me
Yeah.
to function.
Are so
I
those
yeah.
no, go for it.
I was gonna say I have a lot of people keeping me functioning.
Mhm.
So
That's great though. Are there ways for those for that eye track for that eye tracking? Are there ways that you can do those exercises at home for like
yeah,
people?
absolutely. You
Yeah.
can take a pen
Mhm.
or your finger and you start at your nose and
Gonna
you
join
keep
you
your
here.
yeah, let's do it on
All
video.
right.
So on your nose, and you keep your eyes on it, of course, to the front, and then you move it all the way to the right. So for me, when I do this, I can feel my left eye straining,
Mm.
which means that my left eye is having a hard time following the pen. And then you do this, you can do it a couple times a day, and you come back in. And just in doing that, you're going to strengthen your eyes. So it reduces anxiety. So
I've never heard of that before.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, everything well, you were talking about you said you thought you were talking about too many, like, self-soothing techniques, but, like, right now, that's important, like, cause
Yeah, like anything. A lot of people don't know about all this stuff.
well, exactly, and, can you even go see a therapist right now in person? I don't think you
No,
can.
not in person.
So, like, people who are struggling with that need something to do because just putting it in the back burner isn't gonna help at all,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of people are doing. I was doing that the first couple months of the pandemic. I was like, life's on pause. And then my brain was like, actually, it shouldn't be. And I'm going to show you why. And I was like, oh, shit.
I know. It's about finding that balance. And I always stress too talking to people like I don't know, it's because Instagram, obviously we know Instagram is bullshit. Like it shows like 1% of what a person's life is like.
All the
It's not
highlights.
real.
Hmm.
Yeah. And when I have speaking events, I stress, like I'm just having like a good day right now, like for me to be able to get up here and talk to you people. Like I I'm like, oh yeah, eye tracking and like vagus nerve and oh yeah, body scan. Like it's just no so nonchalant. I just want to remind people that these are things like I struggle with and do every single day.
Yeah.
I work really hard and I know I do for like I just joke with for my sanity. Um because and it's just it because not only is recovery not linear, but it also changes as you age.
Hmm.
Like new things keep popping up.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
super surprising, you know. Like even the other day, I I experience burnout quite easily. And I'm starting to learn more and more about myself because that's key. You have to learn about yourself. But then it's like one day I ate a grape. This was like last week. And the way the grape hit my teeth, I wanted to die. And I thought, this is interesting. Like this is new. And
Okay.
then and then I like picked up a towel to clean the counter and I was like that towel feels disgusting. So I was like, okay, what is happening, right? Because this is not I don't remember being like this. Um those were my first red flags that I was burning out. And so what I do in those instances is that I put myself on bed rest. I literally call that. I say I have to go on bed rest. So basically what I've learned this week is that I have sensory processing issues. So um when I am very stressed, I like my tolerance becomes even thinner.
Mm.
So I have to work on that, but it is a thing, sensory processing disorder. It's common with like ADHD or generalized anxiety, where you're just so sensitive to senses, light, touch, taste, smell. So it's like so the journey with mental health is never ending. Like again, at 14, I was diagnosed with bipolar and borderline personality disorder, and then 23, I had that, but also PTSD and, and generalized anxiety. And so it's you just got to keep working on yourself, and but most importantly, know yourself, because the more you know yourself, you know what's going to work. Like I knew Reiki would help because I knew myself, and I also know that I should be able to eat a grape and not be disgusted to
Yeah.
that extent. So I went to bed. I went on bed rest, and then I felt better. But and then but because it's so like easy to talk about, but it's what's not easy to talk about is how that makes you feel.
Mhm.
Like you have that inner battle too. Like why can't I do these things? Why am I so fragile? Why can't I just like do what I want to do? It's always an internal battle, and it really sucks.
Yeah, or you look at people who are mentally, like, not
Yeah.
stable, but, like, they don't experience mental illness, and you're like, "Why can't I think like that?" Or, "Why can't I be like that?"
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough. The one message I wanted to send to people is, like, you know, like you said, mental health recovery is ongoing all the time. um and it's not linear, but there are resources out there, and there are ways to treat it and like live with it. Like I think when people say, because I say it too, like when people say, it's never ending, or the journey is like it's so long, people start getting scared if they experience it. They're like, oh shit, so like I don't want to go through all of that just to live, or like I don't want to spend all that time. I just want a quick fix. And it's not a quick fix, but there are ways to treat it. Like there's hope.
I
If
always say like I'm like, I know most of you are here because you want the answer.
Yeah.
Just the one answer. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. I don't have the answer, but I have answers.
Mhm.
And it's a combination of everything. And um like it is a lot of work. And but you know, like even so me now you've heard a little bit about me and understanding of my story, but there are still times when I lay in bed and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
Mhm.
Like it sucks so much. I actually don't know if I can live my life like this. And I still have that because I mean it'd be wild if you didn't have that because it's so painful and it sucks so much and it's so hard that obviously you're going to feel that way.
Yeah,
Um I always say that a life with mental illness is still a life worth living. That
of
is like
course.
my tagline.
Mhm.
um and it's true. Um but it is hard and it is work, but again, like it is worth it. And there's good and bad days, but that's why we're resilient, and that's why people should be so grateful to have us in their lives in any capacity, whether it's friends or family or coworkers, employers, because we have a different perspective. We bring so much to the table.
Mhm.
And some companies even are starting to realize that now, that it's great to have our perspective on things. Um, Nick always says, he's like, how you like your take on life is inspiring because he sees how hard it is for me to live. And um, he's like, he's seen such hard and ugly things that like no partner should have to watch like a loved one go through. And
Mhm.
it's hard for him too. Like it's hard for our loved ones, ride or dies, to see someone in pain. And I describe it as chronic illness. Like I told my therapist one day, I'm like, I feel like I'm in chronic pain because it manifests physically. It spreads mentally. And then you have good days, but then those good days are wiped away just as easy
Yeah,
with the really hard ones. That's why we just have that's why conversation is so important. Sharing stories, just knowing that people are out there going through similar or the same things. Um, it's just yeah, and we just need more help, which is why I started mental health coaching, because we don't have anyone that we can go to with like that you feel like, can you help me figure this out?
Mhm.
Because a lot of people don't. We just we're not there yet.
Yeah. So is Nick you mentioned Nick, is Nick your partner?
Yes,
Okay. Like, yeah, okay.
my support person.
That's
My-
great. That's great that he's on your side, though.
yes, absolutely.
That's lucky.
I know, I'm very lucky, for sure. And but like that's the other thing too I talk about is people with mental illness, like we're already vulnerable, like we're just naturally vulnerable. And because of that, we do end up in like abusive relationships um a lot. Like I've been
Mhm.
there. I've been in like the worst relationships imaginable. And I see it too. And there's like there's so much, there's this when you have mental health, you struggle with your sense of self-worth. You don't think you're worthy or deserving, like you're broken, you're destroyed, you're fucked up. And then when you feel that way about yourself, you attract that energy. And then you end up with people who treat you poorly and gaslight you and manipulate you and use your mental health against you. And you stay. And that's why it's so important to me to empower people with mental illness so that are self advocates and can say, you know what, like I deserve better than this because it's something that lacks in the community. Like we don't feel that we deserve because we don't even know what is available to us because we're just made to feel like a project.
Yeah. That word broken. I hate that word.
Yeah.
I hate I was talking to a lifestyle coach. His name's Di Manuel. He's from Vancouver. Really cool guy. But he was like, when you say broken and you call yourself broken, what do we do with broken things? We just toss them out.
Yeah.
We just consider it trash. So calling yourself broken or like, like believing that you're broken is just it it tears you down, man.
Hmm. And like one of the biggest things I noticed about treatment, so I think I had 2 or 3 hospital stays and then the one long-term treatment. And one thing I noticed was that there was so much uncertainty about my future.
Mhm.
So, like, no one could tell me anything really. Like, would I be able to work? Would I be able to have a healthy relationship? Would I be able to live on my own? Do I have to live with my parents for the rest of my life? Can I go to school? Like, no one could tell you anything. And I know it's, we're still learning more about mental illness and ways for like long term success and everything. But I left treatment just not knowing what my life was going to be. And that sucks when, like, at the time, I just graduated university. Everyone I knew were like getting married, buying cars, buying homes, pursuing more education, getting jobs. And I was at my mom's place trying to convince her that I could take a shower with the door locked. Like,
Yeah.
it's a huge, like, it's a huge difference.
Mhm.
Um, and I did it through baby steps. Like, I'll always have a percentage of relapse, but the good news is that every year that goes by, your chances of relapse get like a point lower of
Yeah.
happening. Um, but it's I don't I did it, but I want it to be easier for people doing it now because at the time everything was like I moved in on my own and then it was like everyone gripping, the furniture being like, "Oh my god, is this going to work? Like is she going to be able to do this?" And I hated that uncertainty. And I want people to know that like just because you have mental health disorders, it doesn't mean that like you can't attain things that you want in your life or that you don't have the same opportunities that other people have in life. It'll look different and it'll be harder, but that is why it's so important to do what we're doing because you're tackling both sides, which is empowering people with mental illness into believing in themselves that they can attain what they know they deserve. And then on the other side, we're educating people to show compassion and empathy and have awareness and education to so that if the time comes you ever encounter someone who is driven but is just has a disability or chronic illness or whatever and they need that little extra help or accommodation that you'll be open to doing it
Mhm.
because it's just not fair.
Yeah. Yeah, like we said, they didn't choose to do it or have
No.
it. Yeah. Um, that walking on eggshells thing when you first open up or you first experience something and your family or your friends are like, "Can we say things in front of you? Like, are you gonna joke?" That's the worst feeling. I'm like, "Listen, I'm not." They treat you like you're a tiger in the room, like a tiger without a chain on, and they're
Yeah,
just like, "Do we move? Do we say anything?" It's like, Just be normal, please."
I know.
You
I
gotta
have a
be
couple
normal, dude."
people again, like, it all falls on intention, so, like, the intention here is, like, it's super sweet, but it's still kind of
Of
annoying
course.
where
Yeah.
people think that, like, I have someone who knows I have anxiety, and so when they talk to me, they're just like, "So, then we" like, they talk really gentle and
Ugh.
slow, and I'm like, "I can follow what you're saying." Like, crap.
Oh,
Drives me
man.
crazy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's it's tough and it gets easier and then it doesn't. I don't know. It's
Mhm.
just it's a weird one.
There's a lot of ups and downs, and the sooner you realize that and the sooner you acknowledge that like, when you're going through it, I feel like it'll get easier.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to say is like please like don't waste your life.
Yeah.
I know so many people who just wish that they had gotten help sooner or figured this stuff out before because if you don't address it, it's not just going to go away or get better, it's just going to get worse, and it's a lot of stress on your mind and your body and your emotion. Like, you deserve better than that.
Mhm.
So you can't really like run away from it. um it'll because it eventually it will knock you down when you don't least expect it. But I have so many people who did that and are now in their 30s or the 40s, um, trying to completely figure it out. And you don't want to let your life go by and then you don't want to have a high quality of life later in life and be like, oh my gosh, if I had just taken care of this earlier, I
Mhm.
would have had a quality of life sooner.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. The goal is to have a quality of life. That's like what I stress.
Mhm.
Whatever that means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I, I think what a lot of people struggle with, I struggled with this too, but I was fortunate enough where it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But what a lot of people struggle with is the fact that maybe their parents or their family aren't very accepting.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, because I know your mom has been in videos of yours,
Yeah.
but I don't know the rest of your family. So if you've experienced like that, like a family member go, "Oh, I don't believe that," or just "Shut up, don't say that." Like, how do people deal with that? Like, how when
Yeah.
you're opening up, how do you go about that?
So one of the top questions, like I had actually asked you, I think in my podcast, like a question that I get all the time. There's two questions that I get all the time. The one was I asked you when you tell a person in a relationship that you have
Mm,
mental illness. The second is, can you um, cut off family members? And I remember one time someone asked this during a speaking engagement, and this audience member asked me what I thought about cutting off toxic family members, and I said, just I can't stand here in front of you and tell you to like stop talking to your family because I don't know the whole situation,
mhm,
right? Like I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know the dynamic. I don't know the situation. But what I can tell you and like help you with is feeling empowered and making the decision, supporting you in your decision that you have a right to cut someone off and you have a right not to. But
mhm,
I'm not one to make that call for you. I'm the one who will empower you to make a decision and feel good by it and move forward with your life. So that's what I said, and then this person in the back like jumped up and completely, I don't want to be dramatic and be like attacked me, but like came at me.
mm.
And she was like, I can't believe you just said that. You can't tell someone to cut off a family member, like blah blah blah, went on this whole rant.
But that's not what you said.
Thank you, thank you. And so I was like, first of all, I don't know if you were listening, but I did not say that, right? I
Yeah.
didn't like I didn't say it. Roll the clip.
Pull back
I
the
didn't
highlight.
say it. Yeah, yeah. I'm like, and second, you are absolutely right. I have no place telling someone to keep a relationship with a toxic member, just like you have no place to tell someone to keep a relationship,
Yeah.
lady.
Right.
I'm like, so you're gonna tell me that like if someone came to you and was telling you about how like someone in their family sexually assaulted them for 10 years that you're gonna tell them like, well, you have to have a relationship with them because of your family? No.
There's that mixed message
Like
where
I
you
don't
have
agree.
to accept family members.
No, I completely disagree.
Mhm.
So I just had to share that story because I get like a kick out of it because it's so funny.
Brutal.
It was brutal. But um with family members, like, so I have a couple unpopular opinions. Do you want to hear them?
I wanna hear every single one.
Yeah. My first unpopular opinion is that I don't believe in forgiveness.
Okay, that's very unpopular.
Yeah.
Please
And then
indulge.
and then my second unpopular opinion is that I don't believe in being the bigger person.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Harry, you're like, oh wow,
No, it's
okay.
I'm interested to hear.
Yeah. So these are again, I recognize these are unpopular opinions, okay?
Mhm.
And it's something that I that I struggle with fight with Nick about all the time because he's the opposite. So what this means to anyone listening, let me give you my like years of therapy for free here, is that we have different uh codes of conduct. So every single person in their life, you live by your own personal values,
Mhm.
your own personal code of conduct, right? So part of mine is like I don't like being around abusive or toxic people. And if you treat me poorly, then I'm not going to allow myself to experience that. So being the bigger person, like, and I'm sure probably a lot of our examples are on the extreme. But you know, we just have people in our lives who just like attack us all the time and make up stories. And when you have that kind of energy and just people who are living their best self, making their own choices and decisions, I I cannot over and over and over again be the bigger person because it's just draining to me.
Right.
When someone bold-faced treats you like shit, I do not sorry, believe in being the bigger person because it takes so much from you, and sometimes you need that for yourself, like that energy. So it takes a lot of energy. Like I don't believe in giving that to someone who's not deserving.
Mhm.
The forgiveness thing, we put a lot of pressure. So this is just kind of like food for thought, right? Like just take this as food for thought.
Yeah, take it with a grain of salt, like, don't
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Um these are things that help me live my best life.
Yeah,
So, but forgiveness, like we put to forgive someone, that's putting a lot of pressure on someone. It is because sometimes it's hard. It's hard to forgive someone when someone acts in or behaves in a way that is malicious and mean and poor intentions. And then you're trying to find it within yourself to forgive them. Because a lot of people are like, oh, you have to forgive to move on. And I think that's something that I don't believe in.
mhm,
I think because forgiveness is hard. And sometimes like forgiving someone can be so emotionally draining and traumatic.
yeah,
And I believe in moving forward at all costs, no matter how what it takes for you to move forward with your life and get to a better place. So whether that involves forgiveness or not, I'd put less emphasis on it.
mhm,
Um, it's more to me about like the long haul. Like how are we going to get you to where you need to go? In order for you to get from point A to B, do you have to forgive someone? If the answer is yes, then absolutely do it and then get to point B. But if it's not important, don't stress about it. Don't focus on forgiveness and drive yourself just to a point where you're like I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. I don't believe in that stress.
right.
So does that make a little sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely makes way more sense now that you've explained it.
Okay.
Um
Oh, you thought I was gonna be like, like some salty bitch and be like,
Yeah,
"I don't believe in forgiveness," like that?
yeah,
No,
like,
no, no, no,
fuck
no.
those people.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I guess you're right. They kinda so to reiterate, not at all like that.
Mhm.
It's just in the context that, for you, like, spiritually and emotionally and mentally, I want you to move forward with your life. How are we gonna do that? If you're stuck on forgiveness because you can't do it, but you feel like you should, I'm gonna say don't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let's say, someone's treated you like shit, and,
Mhm.
like, minorly, and I mean minorly, lightly. I mean, like, you know, they were rude to you, they degraded you, like, nothing extreme. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, it's something you could potentially forgive them for. Because I agree with no forgiveness for things on the extreme level, like,
Yes.
sexual assault and, uh, like, big trigger warning, rape,
Like
like, things like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
and just and
yeah.
deceiving with a calculated treatment over a year span of time.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
things like that, I completely agree with your statement. But for the minor, quote, unquote, things, uh, if they change, can you forgive them?
Yeah, the same answer applies because if no matter what your situation is, okay? You're at point A, which is feeling hurt.
Mhm.
You want to get the point B, which is being at peace with what happened
Right, of
and moving forward with your life because you have to prioritize you, right? It's really important.
course.
How are you going to get there? If getting there, forgiveness is part of it, then do it.
Right.
So, if someone, let's just say, has like a wedding and you feel you're hurt because you weren't included in like the wedding party or something, like right? That's like something small.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and then you have a talk with your friend, everything's sorted out, everyone is sorry, and then that's forgiveness.
Right.
And you move on. So whatever that looks like, whatever your situation is for you, like that can be applied to anything, like the A to B, and
Mhm.
then whatever happens in the middle between A and B, then do it. Like,
Right.
absolutely. I'm just saying in, like, the drastic situations that if someone's telling you, like, well, you just had to forgive them, but it's causing you a lot of stress because you just can't do it, please don't stress yourself out.
Yeah.
Don't stress yourself out. Like, then move forward with your life in whatever and, like, because that's important. You have to move forward. You can't just stay
Mhm.
at point A. You have to move forward as part of your recovery. And I just think we put, like, a lot of pressure on people to I'm talking from personal experience too, like, be the bigger person, and I felt like I was selling my soul,
Yeah.
and um, so I just stopped believing in that. I think you have to treat people like I know there's that whole thing, treat people how you want to be treated, but there's lots of people out there who don't follow that rule.
Oh, yeah. Humans are nasty.
Yeah, so for me, it's just like protecting people like because these golden rules are kind of so ingrained in us, and i
Mhm.
just i just want to give food for thought and just help people think about things differently because sometimes when we step out of a box on how we're told to think, it's when we have the biggest breakthroughs.
Yeah. So you're trying to normalize the idea of just letting go without a tied
Yes,
knot at the end.
yes,
Mhm. Yeah, I can get
because
behind that.
there's a lot of freedom that comes with that.
Yeah, 100%. You don't
Because
yeah.
yeah, because I went so before, for me, um I always just had to like if any of my relationships changed, I would be that person like I had to not like gently confront someone, be like, "What happened? Like, did I say anything? Did I do anything?" Like, you kind of obsess about it,
Mhm.
and you just want to know the ins and outs about why things are and why people look at you. And at some point, like that's just so unhealthy, and you have to let go. You
Yeah.
just because it's like, um, it's someone's perception, and not everyone's perception is right, and it's also beyond your control.
Mhm. Yeah,
And so,
you can't control everyone's opinion.
yeah.
I think that's a big problem now. I think a lot of like, that's why there's so much division everywhere on everything. Like, we could talk about politics or even coronavirus or mental illness or anything. There's a left and a right side, and
Mhm.
neither side is willing to listen to the other side or,
Yeah.
like, is holding grudges. I think that's the point I'm trying to get. My
Yeah.
brain kind of fuzzed out there. But yeah, I can get behind that. Like there's like this need to tie the knot on
Or
issues.
closure.
Closure.
So
Yeah,
closure is
that's a big
another
one.
big one. The closure. See, this is so what we're talking about now. We're like unlocking parts of like the mind that aren't often unlocked,
Mhm.
which is like which shows it shows growth, right? Because you always want to be spiritually and emotionally growing. So the part about getting closure, um, I've there's been like a handful of relationships in my life that I always go back to in my mind and I obsess about because I felt, oh, I didn't get closure, I didn't get closure, and we put such huge emphasis on getting closure, but it it in turn ironically like drives you mad.
Mhm.
And so it's about like being at peace with what happens and letting it go, and then it like there's so much freedom when you do that.
Yeah. That's
And like
hard though.
it is hard, but you know, I've definitely grown as a person in that way, and even because I had my cousin, because I was talking about a friend who like I thought we were friends, and but she never answers like my texts anymore, and it's just getting really weird. And so my cousin was like, we should totally ask her about it, right? Like ask her about what's going on. Like, did anything happen? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I totally would have done it in the past. And I think this is a situation a lot of us run into too. It's super common. But then when you have, like, when you're at peace with it and you have that freedom, you just think, like, well, first of all, like, this isn't about me, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to, and you just get a point where you're okay with it and you move on. And I'm like, I don't need to confront this person. Like, I don't need to fight for someone to be in my life.
Yeah.
Like, and also it's about because I've been reading a lot about emotional maturity,
Mm.
because there's a lot of people out there who are emotionally immature, and with emotional immaturity, it's super common. Like, is there, there's tons of books on it, but with emotional immaturity comes a lot of ways of thinking, or it's just talks about how these people think. And if there's like an old saying that people who go to therapy are in therapy because of the people who don't go.
I like
And
that.
yeah, and so it's kind of in the same vein, like that a lot of people who think they don't need therapy, like you are the one who needs it the most. Um, Everyone should have a therapist, by the way. It's super therapeutic, obviously. But therapy is so therapeutic. Um, but emotional immaturity is a huge thing, and part of emotional immaturity is the inability to communicate.
Mhm.
And a lot of our uh, personal and interpersonal issues are stem from lack of communication.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, like, what's wrong with communicating? Like, there's not the healthy thing is actually to tell someone, like, hey, you hurt my feelings, or hey, what you did, what you said upset me. Can we talk about it? Like, that is actually the emotionally mature thing to do. And when someone just kind of isolates and ghosts you, that is a sign of emotional immaturity. Uh, Obviously, there's exceptions, like, but um, it's just an example and a very general example. And so, what do you do with that? You know, do you like? So it just goes back to closure. I'm rambling, but like closure, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have closure. But what is closure? It's nothing. You
Yeah.
don't need it.
Yeah, we stress over getting that too much.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I'm still like that because I haven't had to use it for, like a
COVID.
year.
Yeah, we
But
haven't. Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of instances where I was like, I just need to talk to that person and get the closure I needed, and then I would
exactly.
talk to them and I'd be like, I feel so much worse.
Exactly.
Yeah, so don't stress on that.
Because you're realigning the focus on you, and that's what's important, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about reprogramming. Like, a lot of this uh has to do with rewiring how you've been trained to think
Mhm.
and approach things. And I just find it really fascinating. But I love I just oh like another unpopular opinion, I hate devil's advocates. Honestly, like, no, there are so many academic articles on why being the devil's advocate is like just the saddest thing. Don't like have your own thoughts. Like please just have your own thoughts.
Right. So
Yeah, when people
yeah. So do you mean like okay, I know what you're trying I know what you mean by devil's advocate. So do you mean like let's say you're in a conversation and you're talking about I don't know, Trump,
yeah.
let's just say, and one person's like, "I fucking hate him," but then the other person goes, "Okay, but what if?" Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, like just to be devil's advocate, what if he is the or whatever. And it's just like don't be a devil's advocate, have your own opinion.
A lot of people don't know.
Because a lot of people use devil's advocate as like
A safety blanket.
yeah, people use it in weird like you because you're not saying okay, A, are you saying these are your thoughts or the devil's thoughts like or not the devil's but like someone else's thoughts?
Right.
But just like is this a pointless conversation because I don't care on what the devil has to say. Oh wait, I take that back. I do care.
Knock on wood.
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to offend anybody. But no, I just think it's a conversation that I don't like spending my energy on because I'd rather just have a conversation with someone who has their own thoughts.
Well, and you grow more as people when you being a devil's advocate doesn't mean you have an open mind. It means you're not willing to have a conversation about something.
Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like it's a moot point.
Yeah,
It's just
I
like
I would rather say my opinion and get shit on by someone than and then learn from it or communicate about it. I would rather that than someone go, "Yeah, you could be right, but there could also be this." It's like, I get it.
so I literally went down a Google deep dive one day where I just read so much about what is wrong with devils being a devil's advocate. Honestly, like I was
Mhm.
so fired up. So I highly recommend it to people. Anyways, it's just another unpopular opinion. I don't know how we got on unpopular opinions, but
I don't know.
don't
But
come at me.
well, no, if they're willing to listen to your explanations, they make sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. That's
What
the
you do me dirty and you like edit it so
Can
that
you
you
imagine? I get clickbait. I edit out the explanation. I just have the unpopular opinion. I'm like,
yeah.
listen to what Karen said.
No, it's and look at the intention. My intention, of course, is to empower you, right? So empower you by thinking outside of what you've been told, and a lot of times when we grow up with family, um, who are like toxic or imposing or whatever, you kind of there is intergenerational trauma. Their code of conduct and morals and values are ingrained in you, and even if you want to break off the like generational curses or you're working on all that, they're like residual and it's about rewiring. There we go.
Mhm.
So back to your question, this is how far of a tangent we went on. um what to do with your parents if they not accepting about your mental health.
Oh, wow, that was like an hour ago.
Yeah. um um I do like boundaries are so good, and just educate yourself. Like the more knowledge is power, right? Like that. But it is true, the more you know about the different types of abuse, the different types of manipulation, narcissism, gaslighting, then when you identify it, it won't hurt as bad because you know what's happening and you feel validated.
Mhm.
So um I like there's it's twofold. One is to educate yourself on knowing yourself, knowing your family, knowing their personality, um, knowing about their diagnosis if they have any, which can explain a lot, and also setting firm boundaries. You have to do what's right for you, and I know it's tough because for me, being a minor when all this was happening, I had to wait until I went to university, which I was 17, um, to to get any help. You know, so you have to set boundaries and just fight for yourself, which again falls under self advocacy.
Yeah. I think another thing is, like, parents were taught differently.
Yeah.
like the generation above us and the generation above that, they didn't have the same, studies. They didn't have the same information that we have. Uh, so it might just be a matter of they're trying to learn too, because they've been hardwired differently. So that could be the case.
Yeah.
Neuroplasticity. I can't talk.
No, me
Neuroplasticity.
neither. I don't know what's going on with us today.
I've had this actually. Wait. I'll get back to that in a second. But neuroplasticity is like it can be tough. So a lot of parents they want to learn. I'm not speaking for any parents out there. I'm just saying from like experiences that I've talked to people about. Like parents want to learn. It's hard for them to rewire that hardwiring that they've been engraved with for like 40 years. So it's just a matter, like you said, of communicating, researching, doing all these things. But more to that point before about talking, I had a guest on who she was very well spoken and she was talking with grace. She was very elegant and very smart. And I started talking and I went, like I couldn't push a word out. Immediately after she was stuttering, she was like, I don't know what you did to me, but now I can't talk. So I think it's me. I think I have a problem.
Yeah, you're. It's like when someone yawns and you yawn back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to agree with me saying I have a problem, by the way. How dare you?
Listen, I told you I was a no bullshit person.
Jeez Louise, we're not holding back, man. Wow.
No, I don't hold back. No, I'm just kidding. Stop.
No, I know. Um, so this has been fun.
Oh my gosh, this was so much fun.
Are there any last messages that you would want to send the viewers with? Because you're gonna be back on. I have so much more to ask you.
I
Um,
know, right? Same to you.
but I don't want a 4-hour episode because one, I don't think my computer can handle it, and
No,
two,
let's spread it out. We can yeah, I think it's good to post and then see what the feedback is, and then we can answer people's questions.
yeah, that's true.
If any of your listeners have questions for me, then ask away and we'll do it in the next episode.
Yeah.
Um I guess just that, of course, like a life with mental illness is still a life worth living, even though it doesn't feel like it. But there's a lot of people, myself included, who are out there just trying to challenge stigmas and change perceptions, and who are advocating for you. And it's it's really important to be your self advocate. And I know that's hard, but it was my inspiration behind launching like my mental health coaching. So I'm also a mental health coach. I'll be sure to give you all like my info for
Mm-hmm.
Patreon and where to find me. But essentially, I help people develop their short and long term plans pertaining to their mental health that will set them up for success. I also help parents. Going back to parents, how it's a generational thing, they don't know a lot about mental health. I help parents who have children who are struggling,
Mm-hmm.
help them just understand and conceptualize and offer that support, and also resources um, to help get them treatment and what their life looks like and how to set them up for success and how they can attain a life of quality and who they need in their medical support team to do that. So that is what I do. But you have to, the first step is acknowledging, which I know you have, a lot of experience and kind of your perspective on that, because you said you struggled for a long time with acknowledging.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, it's just acknowledging, and then everything from there is kind of, it's there. We can do it, but you just have to acknowledge it first. So if you have any questions ever, just DM me on Instagram or shoot me an email. But I'm always here. I'm always advocating and talking, and I love doing it. So thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for doing what you're doing too, because we need that.
I'm just doing what I can.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we need more um, like proactive uh, allies, and not just like, what's the word? It was performative allyship versus, you know,
Oh, I get
yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you for everything you do, for having me on. This was so much fun.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on and, finding me on TikTok.
I know, so random.
15-second video I whipped up in like 5 seconds. So that's the
No.
power of social media right there.
I know. I think like last time we were shitting on social media for a little bit, which it totally deserves.
Yeah,
But
I actually have more questions about that later.
Okay, cool. I can't wait to come back.
Yeah. So we'll plan that.
Awesome.
And I'll put all your stuff below.
Yes.
This was a lot of fun, Karyn. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And to all my viewers, I will see you guys next time. Hey guys, thanks for watching another episode of my show. If you want more episodes of the H Panel, the button's going to be right here. If you want to subscribe for more videos from myself, it'll be right down below. Please like, comment, share, give 5 stars. Let's keep this conversation going, guys, all right? I'll see you next time. Thank you for your support.